Welcome to REIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of REIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have two guests that will be sharing one of their past projects. We will let you decide if it was good or bad or just plain ugly. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is to get a real estate license or not to get a real estate license. As a real estate investor, you do not need to have a real estate license to do business. However, here are some pros and cons to guide you in your decision. Pro number one, access to the MLS. Having a real estate license grants you direct access to the multiple listing service, also known as the MLS, a crucial resource for finding potential properties and analyzing market trends. Pro number two, commission savings. This one's huge. As a licensed real estate agent, you can earn commission on your own transactions. This can significantly reduce your buying and selling costs. Pro number three, network expansion. Being a licensed agent often leads to networking opportunities with other real estate professionals, potentially leading to better deals and insights. Pro number four, increased credibility. Holding a license can enhance your credibility in the eyes of the sellers, buyers, and investors, potentially leading to smoother transactions. Pro number five, educational benefits. The process of becoming licensed provides valuable education in real estate law, ethics, and practices, which can be beneficial for making informed decisions. On the flip side, here are a few cons for getting your real estate license. Con number one, time and cost of licensing. Obtaining a license requires time and money. This includes pre-licensing courses, exams, licensing fees, and continuing education. Con number two, compliance and liability. Licensed agents must adhere to a stricter set of rules and regulations, increasing liability and the need for compliance with legal and ethical standards. Con number three, ongoing fees. There are recurring costs associated with being a licensed agent, such as association dues, MLS fees, and insurance. Con number four, potential conflicts of interest. As a licensed agent, you must disclose your position to potential buyers, which could lead to perceived conflicts of interest. And con number five, less flexibility. Working as a licensed agent may require adherence to brokerage policies, reducing the flexibility you might enjoy as an independent real estate investor. So, when deciding whether or not to pursue a real estate license, weigh these factors against your business model, resources, and long-term goals as a real estate investor. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Weronika and Nick Ludwig. Weronika was born and raised in Poland and is currently an executive assistant in Philadelphia, where she manages multiple projects and coordinates internal and external communication, as well as business operations regarding the launch of a new skincare line. Her better half, Nick, grew up in southern New Jersey and is currently working as a firefighter and EMT, for which he is a third-generation firefighter. These two badasses are current real estate investor students with the HomeSchooled by Tarek El Moussa coaching program. I have had the pleasure of watching them grow their business over the last year, and they are here to share one of their flips. I am thrilled to have them on the show, so welcome, Weronika and Nick.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so happy to have you too, and I've been watching you for a year, and everything that you're doing, you have learned so much, and I really feel like people who first get into this and start doing an education program, you're reading, you're doing stuff, but once you start taking action, that's where the real education begins. And you all have learned quite a bit with this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a complete change of pace for us, of getting involved, and just a whole shift of mindset from where we were to where we are now.
I'm a huge action taker, so I jumped right in. And this project definitely reflects that.
Well, very good. And I'm excited to get into it. But let's back up a little bit. How did you all decide to get involved with real estate?
It was all my idea. It was late 2022, I think, October. I had this, I'm not even 30, but I had this crisis, the late 20 crisis, when I got everything I wanted in life. I got a great job. I got a house. I got an amazing partner. Everything was just going smoothly. And then I sat down and I couldn't imagine doing this for the rest of my life. So I was trying to figure out a way of finding my passion and what I really want to do. And I came across Tarek's podcast and his Facebook Live, and I got hooked. So I reached out and I spoke to one of the strategists. I kind of made my decision already internally, and then I told Nick about it.
Well, Veronika, I love that you say that because, we are raised to go to school, get a job, retire, and then travel to Europe on a boat, in your 80s with bad knees and then die. So I love that you are being so honest with what happened to you. And you had the dream. You did those things. You got the job. You're doing great. And then realized, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I am so glad that you are sharing that on here, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who, they're afraid to be pushed out of their comfort zone because they feel like that's the only option they have in life. So I really love that you said that. And Nick, you are a third generation firefighter. That is so cool. And now, where did you all meet? How did you guys get together?
So my friend and I took a spontaneous trip. This was 2016.
2014.
There you go.
2014.
It seems like yesterday. We took a spontaneous trip in 2014 to Chicago. It was just a weekend away. We didn't really travel that much, and we just all of a sudden decided to book plane tickets. We take the flight over. I'm sitting on a train. I saw her walk on, and I was like, "Wow, she is absolutely gorgeous."
Yeah, you did marry up, by the way. Just saying.
I know. And I was begging my friend to let's go talk to her. She was with her friend, and he's like, "No, I can't do it. And I was like, "All right, well, I'm leaving you here then." And I just struck up a conversation. My phone was dead. I said, "Hey, do you mind taking my number down?" And I had never expected to hear from her, and she texted me. So.
Yep.
Wow, I love that story. And I read somewhere where you guys were both in England at some point.
So I was on exchange program in the United States. I spent 1 year in New Jersey, and then I moved to California. So we kind of kept in touch, and at the time traveled to different states. And then I moved to England to study, to continue my degree. And Nick followed me and moved to England a few months after that.
How sweet. So you wanted to do this. I was the same with my husband. I watched a late night infomercial and I'm like, oh, I really want to do this. Let's go to this one meeting. And then we were both like sucked in. So how did you get Nick on board to get into real estate?
So from my perspective, she already had this pre-planned. She knew that she made the decision in her head, and she kind of just brought it up to me. And from my standpoint, I grew up, my dad, 30 years in a pension, that whole mindset. So she came to me and I said I brought up all the questions that a naysayer would, like, we don't have the money to do it. To get into real estate, you need a lot of money. We don't have money. You're crazy for thinking this. And then, as it progressed, I was like, well,
He freaked out on me, but I already had this research, weeks of research, listening to podcasts, learning, reading books, then talking to strategists through HomeSchooled. And I had this all figured out, like, how are we going to get money for this? How are we going to continue? How are we going to get the property? And just kind of told him, you have no choice, we're doing it.
I love it. And Nick, do you regret it at all?
No, it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my entire life.
Very, very good. So listeners, if this is something you're thinking about, check out an education program. It doesn't have to be Homeschooled by Tarek, but I'm a coach for Homeschooled by Tarek Al Musa. I think it's an excellent program. We are super close, everybody in that group, and I just feel like it's the best one out there right now. But find your people and definitely invest in yourself. I do not recommend doing like a YouTube university, and because you don't have actual mentors that can help you through things, and the resources. That's a huge part too, is getting the contracts and the deal analyzers and all that fun stuff. So thank you all for saying all that. I'm excited to hear about this project. So we're going to start, and is this your first flip, or because I know you have a handful now going on?
Yes, but that was our first one that's sold now.
This is the first flip. All right. So give us a property description. How many beds and baths, square footage, where it's located, all that fun stuff.
So it's a single family home located in South Jersey, Audubon, New Jersey. It's 1,800 square feet. And when we bought it, it was four bed, 1 bath. We then converted into 4 bed, 2 bath. It was built in 1920, so older home. It had a very funky, weird layout. Had a full basement as well, not finished, kind of like a bonus room, living room, kitchen, bonus room, 2 bed downstairs with 1 bathroom, and then 2 bedrooms upstairs.
And this is in southern New Jersey?
Yes, only 50 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, very nice. So you're near Coach Bud.
Yes, very close.
My work husband. Wonderful. All right. So funky layout, basement, anything else like bad neighbors, anything crazy with the property, or?
There wasn't any crazy neighbors. When we initially looked at it, we were going to do and keep some of the drywall that was in there. And there was some temporary supporting posts in the basement that I didn't really feel comfortable with. But we got our initial contractors through there and got a couple of different bids.
All right. Well, before we get into all that stuff, how did you find this property?
So we found it on MLS. It was only up for a couple of weeks. Nick contacted the agent and kind of built, rapport, the relationship. I wasn't a fan of this property. I thought from the very beginning it needed way too much work and it had such a funky layout. Plus, it was on MLS, so I was thinking competition is going to be crazy. We're just wasting our time. But we went to see it. So we met with the agent. We went to see the property, and she really liked us. So we got a story out of her, which is how we kind of got the house in the end.
Nice. And what was the list price?
So it was listed originally for $275. After 3 days, it was dropped to $245. That's when we got engaged with the agent, and we ended up buying it for $205,000.
Woo! That is awesome. Now, you just said something super, super important, because this is how I got one of our very first large renovation. We were just driving through a neighborhood. We actually got lost, and we drove past this one house that had a for sale sign. And I looked it up on the app really quick, and I was like, they just dropped $30,000. Literally, we called them right away. It had just dropped that day, and then we had it under contract. So that is an excellent way to find motivated sellers if they do these large drops rather quickly. So very, very good. So tell me about the conversation with the realtor and how you got it down to 205 and how she got them to sell to you.
Yeah, so I had contacted her, and some of the methods that we learned, just trying to find information from her. It turns out that it was actually a family member of hers that was going through a bad divorce. She was selling it for the family member, and the person who was paying the mortgage actually just stopped making payments on it completely. So they were kind of ready to move on. And from that sense, I was able to see that she just wanted somebody that was guaranteed to close.
It wasn't about the money necessarily. We kind of got the feeling that she just want to have a solid buyer that can commit and close within the time frame, because she actually had some other offers as well, higher than us, and she ended up choosing us.
Oh, very good. And, you're making a good point here, because this sounds like it was about to go into foreclosure.
It was likely early stages of that, but it was, again, just asking the right questions and finding out the information and really what was important to them.
Those are great points, because, and this was end of 2022, you said?
That was May 2023.
Okay, so there was still some craziness going on in the market. A lot of people were doing over asking offers and craziness like that. It's probably slowed down at that point, but it didn't slow down. You had, oh my goodness. So in your area, then you still had a lot of competition going on with the MLS, which a lot of people, if you're listening to this 2 years from now, where there's a lot going on and there's competition, there is still ways to buy properties off the MLS. And that is by having conversations with the agent, finding what that seller needs. And that is what is most important, because you were solid buyers, and that's probably why they decided to go with you, which I think is fantastic. So how did you finance this deal?
So we financed it through hard money lender, most of it. So 85% was hard money. 85% of the purchase was hard money lender. 100% of rehab was hard money lender, and the gap funding we sourced from private money lender.
So you got this with how much out of pocket?
$750.
And what was that for?
For inspections.
The inspections. Listeners, you can do this. That's fantastic. So you're hard money lender, and for people who are just brand new to real estate, you're not going to go to a typical bank to finance these deals. We use what are called hard money lenders, and then also private money lenders, which are people like you and I. I'm a private money lender, and I will lend out of my self-directed 401k. People have savings accounts where it's earning like a 0.25%, a ridiculous amount of money, and they can lend it out at, say, 10%. And I think that is amazing. So you mentioned that your hard money lender paid 100% of the rehab budget. What was the rehab budget at time of purchase?
At the time of purchase?
This always makes everyone laugh.
Originally, when we were looking at the house, I straight away said it's $100,000. But as a new investor, we tried to tell ourselves the lies. So as we were going through the motions, we got accepted. Our offer got accepted. We said we can do it for $60,000.
A 1920 house. Okay, I like this. And what were the repair items that you needed to do?
So originally we were going to leave a lot of walls up. There was some paneling on the walls that we were thinking that we can just paint with the current comps. We were thinking that it could look okay. And the kitchen was not new, but newer. So we were thinking of just painting the cabinets, putting a new countertop, doing a new floor, kind of paint, and putting that new bathroom upstairs, which was crucial to give us the ARV that we wanted. So when we're going through the estimate and constructor estimator, we were thinking 60 will get us there.
I love this. All right. And what was your projected timeline? I love this question too.
3 months.
And that's not too bad. You closed on the property and you kept it at 60,000. That was your budget for renovations?
We kept it at 60,000 with the hard money lender. So we only applied for, I think it was 66 in total through hard money lender. Yes.
Okay. All right. So you start the project. How did you find contractors? This is another issue for people just starting out.
So I had a friend of mine that came out prior to us closing. Now, mind you, going into closing, we didn't have a private money lender secured. We didn't have a contractor that we had picked out to work with. And I said, we have to get this done for 60. As we were writing up our scope of work, for the hard money lender, we were going through it and he just said, there's absolutely no way we can get this done for 60. This is going to be at least 110. And I completely freaked out. I tried to get Veronika to wholesale the deal to somebody else. I'm like, I have a buyer for it. We can still make a little bit. And she's like, no, we're absolutely doing this.
Well, we couldn't wholesale it because we made the worst rookie mistake of all time. We didn't make the contract assignable.
this error you just said about making the contract assignable. What does that mean?
So making contract assignable basically means putting a clause in your contract that you can assign this contract to another buyer, another investor. Everything as far as the terms and the purchase price stays the same. It's just a person who is closing may change. And we didn't put that in the contract.
Okay, so you're in New Jersey. In North Carolina, where I live, all we have to do is where the buyer is, you put, Jolific Homes or Jolific Properties, whichever one of our companies is buying it, or assigned. We don't need a separate clause in the agreement. It's just, or assigned. And this is a great lesson here, because when you have it under contract, and if people are going, well, what does this or assigned means? And you just say, well, we're stating that we are buying it, or one of our team members is going to buy it. And that's just a great way to give the seller assurance that you will be going through with this contract. All right. So you are sending the scope of work to the hard money lender. And it was the hard money lender that caught the amount that it's going to be actually $110,000.
So no, they didn't cut it. We kind of kept it as it was. We did borrow more money from the money lender, just so we have that cushion between the draws. So we changed some things in the scope of work, but we had to leave the budget as was. Because we weren't able to add any more funds. It was already closed, so it had to stay that way. We were able to wiggle some things around, but the budget stayed at $66,000.
Got it. All right. So you close on the project. Day one, you start. Any surprises during the renovation process?
So before we even started, like Nick mentioned, we didn't have the contractor who was originally was supposed to take care of the project. He was Nick's friend, kind of ghosted us after finding out that, it is going to be more money. So we were thinking, Nick kind of freaked out, and we were thinking of double closing it. So we couldn't assign the contract because we didn't make that clause in the contract, but we could still double close it.
Okay.
But I decided, no, we're going through it. We have this amazing property. It's going to be worth it. It's the lessons that we can learn. We're doing it. So 5 days before the closing, we had to find another contractor. So we went on a Google, and I just searched and went on Angie's List.
Yep, Angie's List.
And submitted a couple of requests. And luckily, the same day, this contractor reaches out to Nick, and he's like, yes, we work with flippers. We absolutely can do this project. We can meet you the next day on the site. We were thinking, it's amazing.
This is fantastic. I got to pause you for a second, because normally that's the last place you want to look is the Google or Angie's List, places like that where they are retail contractors, where they work regularly with retail clients. So they're paying for advertising, they're paying for all the stuff. And so Nick, you lucked out finding one that says, oh yes, we work with flippers all the time. So keep going.
So he gave Nick a call. Maybe you can.
Yeah, so I met with him. I was upfront about the way that we work. Hey, we don't make payments. We don't give deposits. We make payments after the work's complete. This is what we're expecting. This is our scope of work. And it was just the perfect storm of us coming together. Finding out later, he was actually days away from pulling his Angie's List listing because he wasn't getting any feedback. And they have just been absolutely wonderful. They, are on time. They're professional. The work is great. And
when we met with him, all we could do is pray that it's going to come around $70,000. So we walked the property with them. We told them what we're trying to do, leave this wall, take down this one, leaving the cabinets, but take down this. It was all over the place because of the short timeline. We didn't know each other. We had to move in quickly. We told them we were closing in 5 days, and we gotta start moving because we're paying interest from the day we closed.
Yep.
So there was couple days of delays because obviously they had other projects tied up as well. But they came back and their estimate was $77,000.
Wow.
we were thinking that's great, right? It's only 10,000. We can do it. At the time, we also applied for a business credit card with 0 APR for 12 months.
Nice.
So my whole strategy was we can put it on the credit card, sell the house, and then pay off the credit card. Well, it turned out the $77,000 didn't really include the finishes such as tiles and, vanities and floor and other things.
Wow. So lesson here is that scope of work, correct? Is being very clear on exactly what you need. And you know what? I have been doing this since 2017, and I just had to revamp my scope of work just for foundation. We're doing a tear down rebuild, and I was missing things on there. So it is so important to make sure that you have a very detailed scope of work. You have conversations with the contractor. And this is a general contractor, by the way. And then they are hiring out all the subs, correct?
Yes,
very good.
Correct.
Super smart. Man, you all lucked out with this person. And it sounds like they are a team member now. I think that is fantastic. So you finally get started. There's a little bit of delay. So any surprise, and it doesn't include finishes.
Well, very first day we starting demo, and because it was such a short timeline that we didn't really do a proper onboarding with a contractor, didn't write the scope of work correctly. He didn't fully understand, which was staying, which was doesn't. And it was just like a lot of back and forth. It was supposed to be very hands-off project for us because we both work full time, but it ended up being constant text messages, constant email, videos, meeting on the side. And then one day, 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the project, 4 weeks, I show up at the home just to check on it, and every single wall is down. It's pure to the stats. There was not a single drywall left in the house. And I just stood there and I was like, what is going on?
Not part of the scope of work, huh?
Absolutely not. I immediately called Nick and I'm like screaming. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this wasn't a scope of work. Why every single wall is taken down? And he, in this very calm voice, well, me and Joey decided that's the best course of action. And my jaw just dropped.
So Nick made this decision.
I was there with the contractor, and basically, some of the walls were plaster. And he just said, look, if we try to refinish this or go over this, it's just not going to look right. The right way is to take all this down and do it the right way. And
so I agree 1,000% with that, because if you're doing any electrical work, any, the plumbing, if you have to, anything with the HVAC, it actually will save you money to remove the drywall or plaster, whatever is there, because it's a 1920 house, so I'm sure it's plaster, and remove it, which is, that's a pain in the ass to get rid of. To remove it so that it's actually cheaper for them, instead of having to drop things through the wall, through the 2x4s, et cetera, the studs. And so and he is right. If you want this done, this is your business and a representation of, for future clients. So doing the right thing is always best. So Nick, I agree with you 1,000% on that. All right. So any other surprises during renovations?
Wow, there was quite a few. In the beginning,
As we were moving along, we kind of got this estimate from him, but again, he didn't really have enough time to bring his subs and give us the exact price. He was going based off of his past projects. So one day we were over there, and there was an electrician who was supposed to do the whole HVAC. There was no HVAC in the home, so we had to put a whole new ducts, HVAC, and electric. And it turned out to be double what he quoted us. So instead of 6,200, it ended up being like 11,500.
Wow.
But he didn't really tell us that, because the way he was thinking about it is, okay, the electric is going to be more, but I can save money on the plumbing right here.
Okay.
And although that's amazing, for hard money purposes, if anybody ever did draws, it doesn't work like that. If I have a 6,000 for electric, I can use 12. And if I have $12,000 for plumbing, I can't use that. So we were just in that money pit that we were constantly using our credit card to pay those bills, and we were running out of cash.
So Veronika, I'm going to just reinforce again, you guys are bringing up amazing points, and gosh, it's been so long since I've done a past project. So I'm like, I love this. I love digging into past projects. So when you're working with a hard money lender, we're talking about draw schedules. You submit your scope of work of exactly what you're going to do to the property, whether, new roof, flooring, adding the second bathroom, etc. You put a price to everything that you have in there, and that typically comes from the bid from your contractors. We do have tools that we use in HomeSchooled that give you an estimate of what things should cost, but then we also put a contingency in there to kind of help with that buffering for anything that you may have missed, etc. But Veronika, you made such a great point in that you can't say, oh, well, we'll borrow from this thing to pay this, because what they do you have to pay up front. Then they send some, and you say the electric has been completed. They send someone out to make sure that the electric has been completed before they release that money to you, which then replenishes into your account. So it is, you can't say, oh, and by the way, we threw this in there, but we saved money here. It doesn't work that way. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And, we don't even talk about that very often. So super important. And what we like to do, we kind of inflate it a little bit just for like, oops, we may have missed this. So painting, we always tack on a little bit more price per square foot, et cetera, just painting, simple things like that. So great lesson right there. All right. So other surprises during renovation.
Well, we had a meeting there with some members from the group, and we were back and forth on the roof. It looked tired, but in the beginning, we kind of budgeted, but then kind of forgot about it because we said we were going to leave it. In doing that, we opened up the roof, and there was some boards that had to be replaced and additional costs, but that's something that we decided to do. Ripping out the kitchen cabinets was another surprise.
Why did that happen?
So we were going to leave it, but as we opened the walls and completely, rethink the whole process and the project, and as we were going through it as well, the comps and the ARV was going to increase. So the market was still strong, and there was few new comps that were suggesting that our price can be much higher than we were originally thinking. So, going with new walls and new bathroom, we were just thinking it wasn't appropriate to leave those old cabinets, especially that we were opening out the walls and making the entertainment space. So we decided to do a new cabinets as well.
So you brought up something really important. You said that you were checking comps. Why are you checking comps?
So the market was in New Jersey, especially where we are. It's been strong. It is strong. And when we started the project, the houses that sold 3 to 6 months ago were our comps. But as we were going through it, the new ones that were selling at that time were our new comps. So I would constantly go every single day, see what's popping on the market, see what's selling, see what's pending, how long it's been sitting, how long does it take to go under contract. So that was very important for us, because from our original ARV of 360 to 380, we ended up having ARV about 440. So that's a significant change.
So, and I wrote this down as we were talking. I totally forgot to ask you what the ARV is. And for the listeners, ARV stands for after repair value. So that's when you are calculating, the cost for everything and it includes your profit, but you put in the interest, all that stuff to make sure that there's still profit left over afterwards. So originally you thought your ARV was going to be 360 to 380, but by keeping your finger on the pulse of what was going on with the comps during the project, you realized now we do actually have some wiggle room, because the ARV bounced up to what, 440 you said?
So things were selling up to 460, but we were trying to be conservative, and we were thinking 420 to 440 will be a competitive price. Everybody was trying to get in at that time. It was end of summer where the interest were start to raise. So we knew by the time we list the home, the interest rate may maybe higher. So we were keeping it 420 to 440. Yes.
Very smart. You always want to stay conservative with your numbers. I love that. All right. So let's get towards the finish line here. So what was your projected timeline? You said was 3 months. What was your actual timeline?
So from start to finish, it took us 5 months.
For construction or to sell?
To sell. From purchase to sell, it took us 5 months.
Good
so we
for you. That is fantastic. And you originally thought 60,000 for your rehab budget. I'm afraid to ask, what did you actually spend on your rehab?
$135,000.
And I breathe deeply when you say that, but it is very, very common. So we teach our students to add what's called a contingency, which is adding probably about 20% to the rehab budget just to have that extra buffer in there for oh shit, we took the walls down and now we got to replace this. And oh gosh, those cabinets now look horrible. Let's go ahead and upgrade them. So always, always good to have that buffer. And how did you cover those extra costs?
In between our private money loan and our credit card, that we had the limit of 50,000 and 0 APR for this time, we were able to, go between the draw, pay some contractors on a credit card because, again, roof and other things that popped in the middle of the project weren't included in a contractor's bid. So we kind of were sourcing different subs on our own. So we were paying them using credit card, and that really what got us through.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what?
It just helped us float the project along.
And as the contractor also understood how the draw works with our hard money lender, he was super lenient. So, he would give me an invoice. I would submit to a hard money lender, and then I get the draw, and then I would pay him. So it was like a delayed payment that also help us stay afloat.
This guy is gold. Do not lose him. Most contractors will not wait. I've only worked with one, and it was a plumber in our area. He's awesome. He did the current house we're in right now. And they normally want to be paid once they are, finish their job, pass the inspection, whatever, instead of waiting for a draw. So this guy is gold. You guys hold on to him. I love this. So what were your holding costs? Was there an HOA? What was the interest that you were paying? All that fun stuff.
So there was no HOA because it was a single family home. The interest rate, because the purchase price were so low and the draws came in later, our original interest payment started at $1,700 a month. And then obviously they raised to about 2.5 after we took all the rehab money out. Okay.
And so your hard money lender was only charging interest on what you had borrowed at that time, which was, you said 85% of the purchase price. So that's all you're paying in the beginning until you do a draw, and then it increases the interest. So not all hard money lenders work that way, which is great. Do you want to give a shout out to this hard money lender, or do we not like this hard money lender?
No, they're great.
Actually, we love them. We use Kiavi.
Okay, good.
We actually had a great relationship with them from the start. We funding our third project with them right now, so it's been great.
Very good. And that's Kiavi, Kiavi. All right, well, good. I did not have a great experience with them. But anyway, so...
You can leave it out.
No, that's fine. No, everybody's different. And it's also the people you get assigned to you within that company, which also makes a huge difference. So, all right. So you originally bought it. Here's the big final numbers here for $205,000. You ended up putting $135,000 into it. What did you end up listing it for?
We were greedy. And we thought we did such an amazing job, and it was our first flip. And we listed it for $440,000, which was a massive mistake.
Why was that a mistake?
As we were listing the house, the market started dropping. We were going into the fall. Market was slowing down. People weren't, bidding as high. and we were still going off the comps in the summer. So we listed it for 40, and even though it had amazing design and everything was done right, the layout of the house was so quirky that really, really hurt us. And I think if we listed it lower, it would possibly drive the price up, and we listed it higher, which made us a bit nervous.
And great lesson learned there. And, watching Tarek El Moussa on his show, he's always pushing that, but he's Tarek El Moussa, whereas the rest of us, I agree with you, Weronika, by starting a little bit lower and hopefully getting the competition and for people bidding on it and then raising the price. So I do think that's a great strategy, especially in today's market. So, all right. So you listed for $440. And how long was it on the market before you got your first offer?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. That's not bad at all. And okay.
Comparing with what was going on in the market, and we were seeing how, quick the houses get snatched, we were super, super nervous when we were not getting anything at all for 3 weeks.
I have a project right now, and I think we're on month 4 of it sitting there. I'm sweating bullets. It sucks. So 3 weeks, I'm a little jealous, but all right. So did you accept this first offer?
Yes.
And what was the offer?
So a buyer came in with a strong offer of $400,000. We did not accept that, but it was a full cash offer, and we were thinking it was too low, but it's still worth to counter back. So we countered her back at $430. She countered back at $410. We said absolutely not, and we kind of left it there. Waited a few more days because we had the viewings still coming in, but no offers, and everybody were saying the same thing. The house is great, design is amazing, but the layout is weird.
Yeah.
So then we panicked, and then we asked our agent to go back to that lady and try to negotiate a little bit more. He knew our bottom number was $420, and he believed he can get her there. So we settled on $420, cash offer, 30 days close.
Very nice. And so you did sell for $420. Now, once it went under contract, I'm sure they had inspection. Any surprises during that inspection period?
When I opened up the inspection requests and report, I think there was 18 items in there.
How many?
I think it was
15, 18.
15 to 18.
Okay.
And some of the requests were just a little out there. So as I mentioned earlier, we had fully gut the house. So it was all new insulation except for this tiny attic portion. So if you can imagine knee walls up in an unfinished attic, that's basically just for storage.
Right.
It had original blown-in insulation. One of the requests was that she wanted the insulation tested for asbestos, removed, and then filled in with newer insulation. There were some other things in there that were, fixing windows
or cleaning the brand new duct that we just put in. She wanted to fully clean. And some very silly things.
So we went back and, talked through some of the items like, hey, we're happy to do the necessities like fixing the window. They had requested a 1.5 foot section of the sill plate to be replaced from termite damage. So we agreed to do that and then also pay for termite treatment. There was no active termites there, but to give the buyer peace of mind, we agreed to do a couple of those things and they were happy with it. And it was awesome.
Very, very good. And again, this is your business. This is your future. So you do want to do what's right, even if it hurts a little in the wallet. But all right, let's wrap this up here. So you bought it for $205 and you ended up selling it for $410. $420. Sorry. I wrote $440 down to $400, up to $430 down. I was writing all the numbers down. So $420. And what was your total profit?
$29,000.
That's great. So you paid off your lenders, your hard money lender, you paid off your private money lender who dished out a little bit more, some extra throughout this process, and you still made $29,000. I think that is fantastic. Let me give you some applause for that. I can remember the first one that we did, the market was much slower back then. And that one was on the market. It was pretty average, like 2-3 months. And ours sat for like 4 months back then, which was a little bit more normal. Right now I'm sweating bullets, but, getting that first check and by the way, your education program, do you mind sharing what you paid for your education program?
We paid $10,000.
$10,000. And here, a year later into the program, you made $29,000 profit, which paid off that education program. So listeners, that's why every penny is worth it. You're investing in yourself. You're investing in systems. You're saying things like, I didn't do the contract right because I didn't write assignable. And then I was creating the scope of work and doing this. And, there are probably people who, I want to flip a house. What's the scope of work? So these are things that are taught to you and so very important. And I am so proud of the two of you. And what else do you have going on right now?
So actually in the same month, we had also closed an Ovation deal, which was
another $26,000 profit, and we spent $0 and zero time. I mean, a little bit of time, but not as severe as the first flip.
Yeah, that's definitely a story for another time because that was a doozy.
And then we also bought another home as we were almost closing on the first flip. We bought another house that we are currently in the process of converting into duplex. That is another story. So that's pending right now. And then
on the same street that we flipped our first house, Veronika, when we were listing ours, was having me drive around to look at comps, to look at the type of finishes and so forth. And I connected with an agent whose home wasn't selling. And he actually reached out to me like a month later and said, hey, can we try to work out a deal on this? So we're closing on that on February 1st.
Well, I am so proud of you all. You are the epitome of action takers. That's another thing that's really important is people will sign up for these education programs and then they get nervous about things. They're afraid to take action and they pay for their next education program. They're like continuously paying for education programs where you all are action takers. And once you get into the project, you learn so much more and it's like ripping off that Band-Aid. So great. Before we move to the second part of the podcast, which is what makes you both badasses, what advice do you have for the listeners that are in your situation? You both have full-time jobs and they want to get into real estate investing. What advice do you have for them? And what does your future look like in the next 2-3 years with your current jobs?
I think first, identify what's your ultimate goal and strategy. For us, for me especially, is to leave my W-2 down the road and be financially independent. And by flipping homes and having active income coming in, we can reinvest that into long-term investments and hold them for cash flow. So for us, it's the financial independence in the next 3 to 5 years. So I think it's the most important thing for all the newbies out there. It's identify what your goal is. And if you do a mentorship program or any other coaching program, just, commit to it because it's really what you put into it. You can pay all the money in the world, 50, 60, 100,000, but if you don't do the work, none of that is going to work. So we really, took the approach that we're going to fully commit. We spent hours on calls, coaching calls, boot camps, every single week. And that's what really got us where we are now.
And what about your current job? So Nick, are you going to continue being a firefighter?
Yeah, it's something that I've always loved to do and had a passion for, it being in the family and so forth. But I've also realized that, with real estate, we can help people in a different way. So I do still plan on being there, but it also, because of the shift work, gives me the time I need to be able to also do real estate.
Important, yes.
Yeah. So when we actually started this, I was still working like upwards of 60 hours a week and I wasn't sleeping. I was only sleeping 4 hours from Monday to Wednesday. So I only had 4 hours, 2 days a week to focus on real estate. And we were still able to get all this done. My advice to newer investors is definitely invest in some sort of education. because what you learn in there, you can't find on, YouTube. And you need real world experience. You need to be talking to people that are actively doing real estate deals of what's working and what's not working. And then just like Veronika said, commitment. Like once you say that you're going to do something, put all your effort into doing it.
It's never going to feel right. We were closing our first flip and it didn't feel right. And it still doesn't every single time. So it's never going to be the right time. You just have to dive in and commit.
Absolutely. Well, you all are amazing. So very impressed. And again, it's your action takers. And I am so very impressed. And the sky is the limit for the two of you. So I want to go to the second part of the podcast, which is what makes Weronika and Nick badasses. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first letter is B for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
So book for me is actually not real estate related at all. It's Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I got into, his running stuff and his social media, but it wasn't really until I read the book that I really dove in and sort of understood what it meant to be what some would consider like mentally tough and kind of dealing with, your own issues. And, growing up, you start to think and taking all these fire tests and not getting jobs that, you start to get in the woe is me mentality. And it really helped me push through that to stop, not that I was being a victim, but that I stopped looking at it in that kind of light. And I really took action on my own life, that I control my own destiny.
Very good. I'm going to have to check this book out. Veronika, do you have a book that made a huge difference to you?
So it's going to be a cliche, but it was A Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Of course. I mean, that one blew my mind. That was my life. His dad was my family growing up. And yes, huge difference. When did you pick that up? Before you joined Tarek or?
No, so it was after I started researching about real estate investing, listening to podcasts, reading everything out there. And I just heard the name of the book constantly. In every single podcast, everybody said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's really what changed my life. So I bought it, I read it. And it really did change my mindset.
It's huge. And it's funny. It took me a little while to read it because I really thought it was a parenting book. I'm like, I'm never having kids. I'm a former teacher and that was the best form of birth control for me. So I'm like, I'm never having kids. I really thought it was a parenting book, but yes, amazing book. All right. Moving on. The first A in Badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received wasn't a direct quote, but it was really from like my parents, hard work and, not settling for less, like going out there and taking what is yours. And as it developed through my life, hard work kind of meant a different meaning to me. So when I was younger, having a job from when I was 14, I was constantly working because that's what my dad always did. And now as I, get a little bit older in life and put hard work towards other things, it's kind of given me a different light of what that word means. Very
nice. Veronika, do you have something to add?
I mean, that was pretty good.
That was very good.
It's also, it's not a quote, but, someone told me that once that nobody's waiting for you. Nobody's going to save you. It's all you. You're all in your head. If you want to do something, you can absolutely do it. And I proved that myself throughout my whole life when at the age of 19, I decided to not go to university right away, but just moved out completely to a foreign country, 3,000 miles away, and go to this cultural exchange program for 2 years. And after that, I decided I'm not going to go back to Poland. I'm going to study journalism in a foreign language in England. So it was always about making those tough decisions and sticking by them. I didn't have, rich parents growing up. So it was all me. I had to always figure it out. So that's something that's always stuck with me.
Very good and very evident in all that you both do. So excellent, excellent. All right. The D in Badass is for drive. What drives Weronika and Nick to be successful?
For me, it's the financial independence.
Yep.
To not be on anyone's time, but my own. to be able to wake up and decide what I'm going to do today, and not going to work every single day at 9 a.m. and have, 5 days off during the year. So it's really the financial freedom, but really the time that it means for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's definitely, somewhere where we share similar interests, which we found, quite early in this investing journey, that we just want to be able to have that time. So, just creating a better future for ourselves and not sort of being on, like Veronika said, anyone else's time.
I love it. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
So the big goal this year is to really scale. And our main goal is to have $100,000 in active income in business. So either it's a wholesaling, flip, innovation deals, that's our goal. And also acquire one rental property this year.
Very good. Yeah, rentals, I mean, they can save you. We had running out a little bit of money towards the end of last year, and we ended up selling off one of our rentals that had the largest equity in it, and that saved our ass. So that is a very smart, just starting with one here and there, very, very smart. Nick, what is your goal that you're working on?
Again, we sit down and go over these goals of what we want to accomplish, and write them on Post-its, and they're stuck to our mirror, so we get to see them every morning. But just like what Veronika said, of
100K. That's a very good goal to have. All right.
Related, it's also to travel more this year. We are big on travel. We also don't have any kids, and we love traveling. That's how we've met. And last year was all about business mindset. We cut everybody off. We were just business, making relationship. This year we want to travel more. We want to go back to Europe a couple of times. So that's a big goal for us this year as well.
Very good. And let me throw this little nugget out there. There are so many retreats and masterminds that are real estate investor based. I have been to Cancun, I've been to Cabo, I've been to Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico for mastermind events. And it was a business write-off, just throwing that out there. I do enjoy history and going to Europe and things like that, and that's been put on the back burner. But having these other trips and having them be business related and then networking while you're on these events is just amazing. So there's a bunch out there. The guy who was released last week, he has a cruise coming up, which I thought was actually very genius. I'm not a big fan of cruises. I feel like it's the fat person's vacation. Like all you do is eat and sit at the pool, but, there are events like this all over the place. Gosh, I hope it doesn't get back to him. But there are events like this all over. So definitely check into that. All right, moving on. The first S in badass is for systems. Systems are huge, especially learning them in an education program. So what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
I think I'll let Veronika take this one because she has spreadsheets for everything and can.
Are you a freak in the sheets?
Yes, I'm a queen of Excel. That's how I call myself.
I love it.
We are just starting out, so we don't really have expensive, systems right now. But what works for us is really simple: Google Drive and Google Sheets. It's amazing. We organize everything by folders, by properties in the folders, Google spreadsheets, and Word documents. I use that on a daily basis to communicate between each other, and also WhatsApp. So because we are married and we also work together, it's sometimes hard to, leave the business aside. So we found what works for us. We have a different group chats for properties. So we have one for leads when we put everything, our prospects, our, things that we come across. And then we have WhatsApp group for every properties. So if I see a notification from that group, I know it's about that property. So WhatsApp group, Google Drive, Google Sheets, and we also use Deal Finder for properties finding. And we just started using PropStream to diversify and see what works better.
Very nice. I'm a big fan of Deal Finder, which is a branch of RealFlow. And if that's something you're interested in, listeners, I have at rainmastermind.com, I have a link for you to check out RealFlow, which is, Deal Finder is the Tarek El Moussa version of that. So big fan of that. And you guys are doing postcards, I know. And how's that going for you?
Well, your postcard was actually the reason that we got the Novation deal.
See, listeners, you guys are such great students. And I knew that answer, so I'm just patting myself on the back.
No, so, we were sending them out before, but you had come on and given, your presentation again. And Veronica and I went back to the drawing board, made a new card, sent it out. And I think literally within 10 days, I was talking to that seller and
again, created that spreadsheet in the Google Sheet that helped us track really which one works and which one doesn't, which was big for us as well.
Huge. And gosh, you guys are so great. All right. I could talk to you. Oh, go ahead.
Can I just add one thing to that?
Yes.
As far as like systems and processes go, we have clear defined business roles that each of us do. So Veronica has made a spreadsheet of her responsibilities in the business and mine, and we stay in each other's lanes. So we don't cross over. And we find that is a way to get into less arguments.
And you know what? This is huge. I actually did a presentation on this too. I brought up this whole list of roles and responsibilities, and even like picking up the mail from the post office is so I don't have to think about it because Vance, my husband, that's his job is to go pick up the mail, etc. But what's great is it is something that it has changed over time. So in the beginning, I was running the business full time and he was still working. So I did a lot of the project management. When I started coaching, he got his GC license and then took over a lot of the project management side of things. And now coaching slowed down a little bit. So now I have a little bit more time again. I actually just recently took on project management again, which is why we were talking about scope of works. And I was like, shit, I totally missed this in the foundation stuff. So it is one of those things that will evolve over and over again, but it's got to be a decision between the two of you of, and well said, Nick, to stay in your own lane so there's no arguments over that and being well defined. Great job. All right, to wrap up this podcast, the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to you?
For me personally, is to be able to leave my job and fully commit to our business and be financially dependent. So the day I leave my job, it's going to be the day I succeed.
Very good.
Success for me, I would definitely say is building something that I can be proud of, and building the business out the right way, and doing these projects just as if I would live in the homes. Like if there's something that needs to be fixed, do it. But longer term, helping Veronica, reach that goal of hers, and really just expand this business out to where we do have time back.
And can go on that trip to Europe, which I need to get that on my books as well. We should just do a trip to Europe with investors. We need to just organize that. All right. Sidebar on that. There you go. Well, you all have been fabulous to, first of all, listen to this story on the podcast, but also I have watched your journey over the last year and I'm so impressed with you. And like I said, the sky is the limit for you. I don't doubt that you'll be able to piece out that job soon, Veronica. And I'm super proud of you. I'm a proud mama bear of our students with the HomeSchooled program with Tarek El Moussa. And thank you all so very much for sharing this project on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And, we can't even thank you enough for all you do for the students and, the program and even your mastermind. So I know the listeners are going to get a lot of knowledge and information from this.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll pay you later for that one, Nick. Well, that is all. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Now, go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for
Great
listening to
job,
RAIN,
you
the
all.
Real Estate Investor Growth Network.
I'm going to have to edit the fuck out of that, but that was
Subscribe on your favorite
amazing.
podcasting platform so you
Me,
never
like
miss an
me.
episode. If you
Tap
need more
dancing
badassery,
dogs.
you can follow Jen Josie by visiting
Always, whenever we have something
therealjenjosie.com
important.
or become a member of RAIN by registering on
10 more seconds.
rainmastermind.com.